Have you ever noticed that subtle, almost atmospheric presence in a song? A sound effect that isn't the main melody, but it defines the whole mood.
Hmm.
Maybe it's like a shimmering trail or a rhythmic bounce or this huge, otherworldly space that seems to stretch out forever.
Right.
What if I told you that one specific type of sound effect has not only subtly shaped, but sometimes, dramatically created entire musical genres?
It's fascinating when you think about it that way.
Exactly. So today, we're taking a deep dive into the enduring echo, a history of delay effects. We're going to trace how these time-based repeats first popped up, the landmark machines and pedals that came next, and really the iconic artists who made them famous.
Yeah.
Our mission here is to give you, our listener, a kind of shortcut to understanding this whole evolution. We're drawing from some really detailed chronological sources.
And it's a great topic.
I'm really excited to get into this sonic journey.
Me too. Because, understanding this tech evolution, how delay effects came about, it tells you so much about creative expression itself. It's often this dance, right, between the artist and the tools they have. Sometimes even the limitations of those tools.
Totally.
Every little breakthrough or even a quirky imperfection can just completely change the artistic landscape.
Okay, so let's dive in. Let's start right at the beginning. Before we had these dedicated boxes you could just plug in,
Yeah.
how did musicians even think about getting echo effects?
Well, yeah, you had to be really inventive. Way back in the late 1940s, the jazz guitarist Les Paul was a huge pioneer here. He was essentially like hacking early Ampex tape recorders, not just for delay, but for overdubbing too.
Hacking them. So really hands-on stuff. How did that actually work?
Oh, completely. It was pure ingenuity. He would physically mess with the tape speed, right?
Wow.
And also the distance between the record and playback heads on different tape machines. By tweaking those physical things, he could get both that layering effect for overdubs and those distinct repeating echoes. It was almost like building sound mechanically.
Wow, that's amazing. Literally inventing delay by playing with tape.
Right.
But okay, there's one guy being brilliant. How did this idea move into, say, a more controlled studio setting?
Well, that initial idea laid the groundwork for something a bit more formalized, though still acoustic, really. In the 1950s, before the mechanical units became common, engineers started building what they actually called studio echo chambers.
Echo chambers, like actual room.
Exactly. Purpose-built acoustic rooms, think really reverberant spaces, designed specifically to capture natural echo. They'd pipe a sound into the room, use a microphone to capture the echo bouncing around, and then mix that echo signal back into the recording.
Okay.
It was all about creating and capturing this controlled space to add depth. That concept was really fundamental.
That's wild. Building rooms just for echo. Okay, so we've gone from tape manipulation to custom rooms, but then things really shifted, right? The echo chamber kind of set the stage, but the next wave made delay way more accessible. This is where it gets really interesting, I think, with dedicated units appearing.
That's right. And one of the first big ones to make tape echo portable, something you could actually take on the road, was the Wimium Copycat. That came out in 1958 from Watkins Electric Music.
Okay, the Copycat. What made that such a breakthrough for, gigging musicians?
Well, it used vacuum tubes, which gave it that warm sound people liked. And crucially, it had these rotating head drums offering up to 3 separate echo heads. It meant musicians could get that sought-after tape echo sound outside a massive studio setup. And it was built tough enough for touring. That was huge.
Right, taking it out of the studio. And then pretty soon after, 1961, we get the Maestro Echoplex EP1, and the EP2 followed in 64. How did the Echoplex build on that?
The Echoplex really nailed the packaging. It took the tape loop and all the electronics and crammed them into this relatively compact box, something musicians could literally put underfoot, on their early pedal boards.
Right.
And its sound, that warm, often kind of saturated repeat, it just became the sound. A studio staple, yes, but also a live workhorse. You think of huge names. Pink Floyd, Brian May, even Elvis Presley used it. They were all shaping their sound with the Echoplex.
Yeah, iconic. And we can't forget the Benson Echorec from the 60s. That Italian machine was different again, wasn't it?
Absolutely. It wasn't tape-based like the Copycat or Echoplex. The Echorec used a magnetic drum instead of a tape loop.
A drum. How did that sound?
It gave it a really unique character. The rotary head design created these very distinctive slapback echoes and these sort of swirling, almost watery repeats.
Yeah.
Very different. Famously used by the Beatles. And again, Pink Floyd got some incredible sounds out of the Echorec, too. It had its own special voice.
It's so interesting hearing about the character of these early units. They weren't about being perfect copies, were they?
not at all. That's the key. They were organic. The tape saturation, the little fluctuations in speed flutter, and wow, the imperfections were part of the charm. They created this warmth and depth that really started defining the sound of early rock, and especially psychedelic music. It wasn't clean, it was this rich, textured wash.
Yeah, a wash is a good word for it. Okay, so these early units laid the foundation, but then came the machine that arguably became the legend of tape echo.
Oh, you must be talking about the Roland RE-201 Space Echo.
Exactly. 1974. What made the Space Echo such a monumental step?
Oh, it was revolutionary for its time. It wasn't just another tape echo. It brought in features like multiple tape heads you could combine in different ways.
Right.
Plus, it had a built-in spring reverb, which was huge.
Right.
And separate controls for everything. Echo volume, repeat rate, intensity, even the tape bias. You could really sculpt the sound.
And the sound itself is so distinctive.
That's the magic. The Space Echo's imperfections, that characteristic tape warble, the hiss, the way the echoes degraded those became its most beloved features. Artists didn't just put up with them, they leaned into them. They used that warble and decay as part of the instrument's voice.
Turning limitations into features.
Precisely. And that's why its sound just completely defined genres like dub and reggae, plus tons of rock music through the 70s and way, way beyond.
And even though the RE-201 was the icon, there were others riffing on that sound too, right? Like the Commodore EK22 and later rack units trying to capture that vibe.
Yeah, that Space Echo sound became a benchmark. But if we connect this to the bigger picture again, the Space Echo wasn't just adding an effect. It directly shaped entire genres. Think about dub producers like King Tubby or Lee Scratch Perry. They weren't just using the Space Echo, they were pushing these machines to the absolute edge, exploiting every bit of that warble and feedback to create those signature echo-drenched soundscapes. That is the sound of dub.
It's inseparable.
Exactly. And its influence stretched into psychedelia too. Hendrix, later U2. It's a perfect example of how a piece of technology doesn't just facilitate music, it fundamentally molds it.
A truly genre-defining piece of gear.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got tape, we've got drums. They sound amazing, but they could be finicky, right? Lots of moving parts, maintenance.
Oh, definitely. Tape loops wear out, heads need cleaning, motors can fluctuate.
So what was the next big technological leap to make delay more reliable, maybe smaller?
That leap was moving away from mechanics altogether. It was the shift to solid-state technologies, specifically using something called a bucket brigade device, or BBD.
BBD, bucket brigade. What exactly is that?
Okay, imagine a line of tiny electronic buckets. The audio signal goes into the first bucket, then gets passed down the line bucket to bucket in a controlled sequence.
Ah, like a tiny conveyor belt for sound.
Sort of, yeah. Each bucket holds a little piece of the audio charge and passes it along. This creates the delay, the repeats, without any physical tape moving. The key breakthrough was a chip called the Redicon SAD1024, which came out around 1974. It was the first really useful low-voltage BBD chip.
Okay, so that chip enabled solid-state delays, and then Boss, Roland's pedal brand, jumped on this pretty quickly.
They did. In 1981, they released the Boss DM2, a compact analog delay pedal.
And what made the DM2 catch on?
It used those BBDs to give you up to about 300 milliseconds of delay. But the beauty was its simplicity. Just 3 knobs, delay time, feedback, how many repeats, and intensity, mix level. It sounded great, warm, analog, and it was super easy to use. It just became a standard fixture on pedal boards everywhere. Still is for many.
A classic. And then just a couple of years later, 1983, Electro Harmonix brought out the Deluxe Memory Man. That one has a serious reputation, too.
Oh, absolutely. The Deluxe Memory Man, or DMM, it had this uniquely warm, almost chorused repeat sound. It achieved that partly by using dual BBD chips and having a built-in chorus vibrato circuit that you could blend in.
Ah, the modulation was key.
Exactly. It created these really lush, organic, swirling echoes. It wasn't trying to be perfectly clean. It had this beautiful, rich character. It's another one that's remained a favorite for decades.
So this BBD era, what was the big takeaway? What did it offer that tape didn't?
Well, the most obvious thing was practicality. These pedals were way smaller, much more reliable, no tape to break or heads to clean. Huge plus for gigging musicians.
Right.
But sonically, it was different too. BBD analog delays have their own character. It's often described as darker, maybe smoother than tape. It's still warm, but it's a different flavor than the sometimes gritty, modulated sound of tape echo, a new voice.
Okay, a different kind of warmth, more reliable, and then boom, everything changes again with digital, right?
Right. The digital revolution, yeah. Suddenly you're talking cleaner sounds, more precision, longer delay times. It really opened up completely new possibilities.
And Boss was early here too.
Yep, in 1984, they released the Boss DD2 digital delay, one of the first true digital delay pedals using memory chips.
And the big advantage here was
Clarity. Digital offered clean, noise-free repeats, much closer to a perfect copy of the original sound, which was very difficult with analog methods. Plus, much longer delay times became possible. The DD2 could do up to 550 milliseconds initially, which was quite a bit for a pedal back then. And later versions, crucially, introduced things like tap tempo.
letting you tap on the beat.
Exactly. Syncing your delays perfectly with the song's rhythm became easy. That was a game changer for rhythmic delay effects.
And models like the Boss DD3, DD6 later on. They just kept refining this, right? Longer delays, better sound quality, reverse modes.
Yeah, adding more features, higher resolution audio, more creative options like reverse playback, looping capabilities. Digital just kept expanding what a compact pedal could offer.
But it wasn't just pedals. There were serious rack units for studios and pros, too.
Oh, absolutely. For the high-end stuff, you had units like the TC Electronic 2290 and its successor, the 2290T, around 1992.
What made those special?
These were studio powerhouses. They had top-tier audio converters for pristine sound quality, incredibly low noise floors, and full MIDI control.
MIDI control, meaning
You could automate delay changes, sync them precisely with other gear or a sequencer, really integrate them into complex studio productions. They became absolute staples. You heard them on countless records. Think U2, Radiohead, tons of session players relied on the 2290 for that super clean, precise digital delay.
So digital brought this incredible precision, expanded possibilities.
Fundamentally, longer times, cleaner repeats, features like reverse that were just impossible or impractical before. It really changed the game for composition and production.
Yeah.
But it also raises that interesting question, doesn't it? How did moving from the organic, sometimes unpredictable nature of Tate and BBDs to the crystal clarity of digital affect the feel of music? Did we lose something along with the noise?
That's a great question. Precision versus vibe, maybe. Okay, so digital opens the floodgates. And that led us into an era where delay pedals became incredibly versatile, packing studio power into smaller boxes.
Exactly. The late 90s and 2000s saw an explosion of innovation.
And a massive player here was the Line 6 DL4 landing in 1999. Why was that pedal such a phenomenon?
The DL4 was revolutionary because it wasn't just one delay sound. It modeled several iconic delays: analog, tape, digital, reverse.
All in one box.
All in one box. Plus, it had a built-in looper offering up to 14 seconds of recording time, which was pretty generous back then. Its versatility and user-friendliness just made it ubiquitous. Suddenly, you had a whole history of delay sounds, plus looping, right at your feet. A modern classic for sure.
It really was everywhere. And then Electro Harmonix revisited their classic, didn't they? With the Memory Man with Hazarai in 2013. How did that update the formula?
The Hazarai took the Memory Man vibe but added a ton of digital control and complexity. It introduced things like multi-tap sequencing.
Meaning you could set up complex rhythmic patterns.
Precisely. Not just straight repeats, but intricate rhythmic subdivisions. Plus, it had lo-fi modes, more modulation options. It pushed the Memory Man concept into much more experimental territory.
And then in the boutique pedal world, around the same time, 2013, the Strymon Timeline made a huge splash. A real powerhouse.
Oh yeah, the Timeline set a new standard for high-end delay pedals. It packed 12 different delay machines or algorithms.
Including things like Shimmer.
Shimmer, reverse, tape, digital, unique ambient textures. Just a huge sonic palette. And critically, it had deep MIDI implementation and truly studio-grade 24-bit 96 kilohertz audio processing.
So pristine sound quality.
Absolutely pristine. Incredible detail and clarity. It, and pedals like it, really brought that top-tier studio capability down to the pedal board level. What these units did collectively was democratize advanced delay. Features that used to require expensive rack gear or complex software setups were suddenly accessible to way more musicians.
That's a huge shift. Okay, so that brings us more or less up to the present. What's the delay landscape look like today? It feels like a blend of everything we've talked about.
It really is. You've got this thriving scene of digital boutique pedals. Companies like Chase Bliss Audio, Maris with pedals like the Mercury 7, Walrus Audio's ARP87. What's fascinating with brands like Chase Bliss, for example, is how they often use digital controls to manipulate analog circuits. So you get the analog sound character, but with digital precision and recall. It's a really interesting hybrid approach.
The best of both worlds, maybe.
Kind of, yeah. And then you have the trend of powerful multi-effects in smaller and smaller boxes.
Miniatures, right.
Exactly. Pedals like the Boss DD200, the TC Electronic Flashback 2, the Eventide H9 Mini, they cram an astonishing amount of processing power and different delay types into tiny footprints. Super practical.
And for the real experimental folks, delay is deep in the modular synth world, too.
Oh, absolutely. Eurorack systems have tons of delay modules, things like the Erica Synths Black Delay 2 or the Make Noise Urba Verb, and these often go way beyond standard delay. They incorporate granular synthesis breaking sound into tiny grains, pitch shifting effects, and complex CV control.
CV control.
Control voltage, so you can use other modules in your synth rig to dynamically modulate the delay parameters in real time. It opens up incredibly deep experimental sound design possibilities.
Wow. So the current scene really is this amazing convergence, isn't it? Digital power meets analog character, incredible customization.
Yeah, it feels like musicians today have access to pretty much the entire history of delay sounds, plus completely new territories, often all within reach on your pedal board or synth rig. It honors the past while constantly pushing forward.
Okay, let's tie this all together. We've traced the tech, but what about the impact? Let's talk about some iconic artists and songs where delay wasn't just an effect, it was fundamental.
Absolutely. You have to start early. Think Elvis Presley's Heartbreak Hotel from 1956.
Okay.
That classic slapback echo coming from those early tape machines, that wasn't just tacked on. It basically defined the sound of rockabilly guitar, that bouncing feel. It became part of the genre's DNA.
Right, inseparable. And then, fast forward, U2's The Edge. You can't talk delay without mentioning it.
Impossible. His signature dotted eighth note delay sound, it's instantly recognizable, uses rack units, pedals, but it's more than just a sound effect. It shapes the entire rhythmic structure of songs like Where the Streets Have No Name.
It's like another instrument playing along.
Exactly. That pulsing, arpeggiated feel is the delay working rhythmically. Take it away, and the song completely changes.
And Pink Floyd. David Gilmour.
Oh, massively. His soaring guitar solos, particularly on tracks like Time or Shine on You Crazy Diamond, he was a master of the Echoplex tape echo. He used those long, cascading repeats not just for atmosphere, but to give his sustained notes this incredible sense of space and expansion, making them feel like they went on forever. It was part of his lyrical playing style.
That sense of space is so key to their sound. And we touched on it before, but dub and reggae.
You absolutely have to reiterate that. Producers like Lee Scratch Perry, King Tubby, they didn't just use space echoes, they played them, pushing them into feedback, manipulating the tape speed in real time.
Right.
Those echo-drenched, swirling soundscapes are dub music. The effect wasn't applied to the music, it became the music in many ways. They exploited every quirk.
It really underscores the point, doesn't it? These effects weren't just some sonic decoration.
Not at all. They became completely integral to the identity, the structure, the very feel of the music for these artists and genres, woven right into the fabric, not just sprinkled on top. They define the sound as much as any melody or rhythm.
What an incredible journey. Thinking about where it started with Les Paul physically manipulating tape through those warm, wobbly early tape units, the smoother BBD analog sound, the clean precision of digital, and now these incredible, powerful hybrid devices we have today.
It's amazing.
It really shows how one core idea, repeating a sound over time, can evolve in so many different directions, and each step inspires new ways to make music.
It really does. And like the sources point out, delay and echo have genuinely come to define entire musical genres. And the beauty is, partly because of all those different technologies and imperfections, no two echoes ever sound quite the same.
That's a lovely way to put it.
And maybe that leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. Considering this whole history where technical limits became creative features, where new tech opened up new worlds, what seemingly subtle sound texture or effect out there today might be the next one to grow and fundamentally shape whole new genres of music. What's the next space echo moment waiting to happen, maybe hiding in plain sight?